Welcome back. Episode 294, Quest for You. Beartown. When a novel grips me, I have to talk about it. Few novels do this, but this is the second book by Frederick Backman that did it. A Man Called Oath was the first, and I talked about it in episode 146. Beartown was equally fascinating, so I want to share it with you. Not just because it was a good book, but also because we all can learn from a good book. I devoted several episodes to the topic of storytelling a few weeks ago. Beartown is such a good story. Backman is a superb writer. He takes his immense wisdom, something that separates good authors from great ones, weaves it into beautiful language, and then places it neatly into an amazing story. A story that touches, teaches, and entertains. A story that shows us the best and the worst of human behavior. There's loyalty, courage, love, honor, and the importance of family. And then there's failure, selfishness, lack of accountability, greed, hate, neglect, and indifference. In a 2-sentence first chapter, Backman starts with a bang, quite literally. Late one evening, toward the end of March, a teenager picked up a double-barreled shotgun, walked into the forest, put the gun to someone else's forehead, and pulled the trigger. This is the story of how we got there. Everything the story symbolizes is right here, embedded in 2 sentences. What? A crime. And it's actually not the one alluded to here, but a different one. Who? A teenager, as teenagers are the main characters of the story, specifically the members of a youth hockey team and their friends. And where? We also get a sense of place. The forest, which is usually what is outside of a small town. I could dedicate this entire episode to just reading you all 50 introductions for each of the chapters. That's how good they are. Here's another one. Hate can be a deeply stimulating emotion. The world becomes easier to understand and much less terrifying if you divide everything and everyone into friends and enemies. We and they, good and evil. The easiest way to unite a group isn't through love, because love is hard. It makes demands. Hate is simple. So the first thing that happens in a conflict is that we choose a side, because that's easier than trying to hold 2 thoughts in our heads at the same time. The second thing that happens is that we seek out facts that confirm what we want to believe. Comforting facts, ones that permit life to go on as normal. The third is that we dehumanize our enemy. Hockey, and the hockey club in Beartown in particular, is at the center of the story. In fact, Backman told a group of fans during a signing, the town is very much the main character in the story. He clearly establishes it right away on page 2. The town wakes early, like it does every day. Small towns need a head start if they're going to have any chance in the world. The rows of cars in the parking lot outside the factory are already covered with snow. People are standing in silent lines with their eyes half open and their minds half closed, waiting for the electronic punch cards to verify their existence to the clock-in machine. They stamp the slush of their boots with autopilot eyes and answering machine voices while they wait for their drug of choice, caffeine or nicotine or sugar, to kick in and render their bodies at least tolerably functional until the first break. You get a sense of the language, artfully crafted and capable to bring entire movie scenes of images to our mind. He's a master that brings an astonishing depth to his stories. He possesses the remarkable ability to make us understand the feelings of each of a few dozen different characters with varying backgrounds and motives. Each character seems somehow central to the entire story, and keeping up with them definitely keeps the reader alert and engaged. Beartown revolves around hockey, not much else. He says, You can't live in this town. You can only survive it. The Beartown junior team has a shot at the national championship, and the entire town hangs its hopes on this win. It's almost as if Bachman made this tough sport a metaphor for the town's struggle to stay alive and to achieve success. Hockey is just a silly little game, he writes. We burn and bleed and cry, fully aware that the most the sport can give us, in the very best scenario, is incomprehensibly meager and worthless. Just a few isolated moments of transcendence. But what the hell else is life made of? So we have a small isolated town. And we have a game that the entire town lives for. So now you can begin to imagine some of the challenges that might arise. Another quote. Culture is an odd word to use about hockey. Everyone says it, but no one can explain what it means. All organizations like to boast that they're building a culture, but when it comes down to it, everyone really only cares about one sort. The culture of winning. Winning is a central theme in this novel. I thought that this story fits well anywhere in the world, especially here in the US, where many towns live for the sport team of their community. Bachman writes, "Why does anyone care about hockey? Because it tells stories." It sure does. And when it's all about winning, then people do things they probably wouldn't do otherwise. Here's the intro to Chapter 7. It's only a game. Everyone who plays it gets told that from time to time. A lot of people try to tell themselves that it's true. But it's complete nonsense. No one in this town would have been the same if that game hadn't existed. Intro to Chapter 8. It's only a game. It only resolves tiny, insignificant things, such as who gets validation, who gets listened to. It allocates power and draws boundaries and turns some people into stars and others into spectators. That's all. A town, a sports team, an important game, and then a tragedy that suddenly puts everything into question. How important can a game be when misfortune occurs? And especially when caused by one of the players. Bachman shows us how Beartown and its people deal with it. How close-minded some can become when their one passion is suddenly at the brink of getting derailed. How conflict creates fractions inside a community that was previously united with its love for a sport. And how important family is when everyone else seems against you. This made me think quite a bit. How often do we lose our compassion and sense of humanity when we are so fixated on something to go a certain way? Don't we all sometimes just plow through with our eyes on the target and the target alone, maybe losing our sense of what's right and wrong along the way? Bachman gives us plenty of chances to reflect with quotes like these. We love winners even though they're very rarely particularly likable people. There are 1,000 ways to die in Beartown, especially on the inside. Everyone has 1,000 wishes before a tragedy, but just one afterward. The very worst events in life have that effect on a family. We always remember, more sharply than anything else, the last happy moments before everything fell apart. But sometimes that's what it takes, a culture of silence to foster a culture of winning. Just so amazing, these quotes, so wise, aren't they? Beartown is more than just a sports story. It's also more than just about tragedy. It's a story about human behavior, wins and losses, drifting apart and coming together, conflict and resolution, justice and injustice, bitterness and forgiveness. I love this bitterness quote. Bitterness can be corrosive. It can rewrite your memories as if it were scrubbing a crime scene clean, until in the end you only remember what suits you of its causes. Friendship. Another quote. You never have the sort of friends you have when you're 15 ever again. even if you keep them for the rest of your life, it's never the same as it was then. How true. And love. And how the power of love can help overcome even the worst moments. It's a human story of people that can be found anywhere, people like you and me. Beartown explores the hopes and dreams that hold a small community together, the fears that tear it apart, and the courage it takes for just one person to go against the grain. In this story of a small forest town, Frederick Backman has found the entire world. It's a beautiful story, inspiring me to show up as my best every single day. To end with this quote: another morning comes, it always does. Time always moves at the same rate, only feelings have different speeds. Every day can mark a whole lifetime or a single heartbeat, depending on who you spend it with. I'm wishing you, my friends, that you have time today to spend it with someone that you love and deeply care for. Much love.